The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. The government pays attention on the increased number of persons arriving in the country from overseas infected with coronavirus. A new program introduced to look after corona patients at home. Another 2,251 COVID patients leave hospitals after recovering from the virus. A restraining order issued on MP Sagara Karyavasam. In news overseas, Canada records its highest ever temperature. In sports news, it's US Olympic trials. Sydney McLaughlin breaks women's 400-meter hurdles world record. Local stories in detail. Deputy Director General of Health Ministry Dr. Hemantha Herath says that government has paid its attention on the increase of corona patients arriving in the country from overseas. He said that the spreading rate of Delta variant is higher than the other variants. However, he said that the disease can be completely controlled if people follow health guidelines. A new project has been launched to look after corona patients at home. The Ministry of Health said that corona patients at home can be informed over the hotline 1390. The patients will be categorized under the supervision of regional medical officers. Accordingly, patients without symptoms and patients with minimum symptoms will be kept at homes until they are sent to hospitals. Steps have been taken to provide health services and advice of specialist doctors over the telephone to them. 2,251 corona patients have recovered and left hospitals and treatment centers. 221,249 have recovered from the virus so far. 253,618 corona patients have been reported from the country. The epidemiology unit said that 39 deaths have been reported during the past 24 hours. 31,715 are undergoing treatment at present. 2,605,558 have been given the first dose of the corona vaccine. 900,519 have been given the second dose of the vaccines. Colombo District Court has issued a restraining order on General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Sagara Karyavasam, preventing him from removing Kuruvita Pradeshiya Sabha member S. Ratnasuri from his post. Colombo District Judge Aruna Alutge has issued the order until the 12th of next month. The court has issued notices on Mr. Sagara Karyavasam and Minister Vasudeva Nanayakkara to make submissions on the complaint. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with local stories, MP Sagara Karyavasam says that requests made to Mr. Basil Rajapaksa to enter Parliament cannot be ignored by him. Mr. Karyavasam said that Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna expects the commitment of Mr. Rajapaksa to the country at this moment. Construction of Colombo Bird Park has commenced on the instructions of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The park will be built while protecting Madivela wetland system, protecting the environment on the advice of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. State Minister Dr. Nalaka Godahewa said that the project will help to promote environmental friendly attitudes. To end the local news, the headlines again. The government pays attention on the increased number of persons arriving in the country from overseas infected with coronavirus. A new program introduced to look after corona patients at home. Another 2,251 COVID patients leave hospitals. A restraining order issued on MP Sagara Karyavasam. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On the main news story, former President Maithripala Sirisena says that reports stating that he would be taking oaths as a minister in a future date are completely false. His private secretary has issued a special statement to media in this regard. It has said that the former president has not requested the government for any ministerial portfolio. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watch Light. Farmer organizations say that the water supply to agriculture in the Galle district has been disrupted due to improper maintenance of canals. Although the Agrarian Services Department has been informed, the shortage of machines at the department has become an obstacle. Farmers request the provincial agrarian and irrigation officials to maintain the canals, enabling a systematic water flow to their cultivations. That ends Watch Light. Moving on to the world news, the headlines. Canada records its highest ever temperature. Tokyo reports new coronavirus cases. The UK's financial regulator bans world's biggest cryptocurrency exchange. Canada has recorded its highest ever temperature as the country's west and the US Pacific Northwest frazzle in an unprecedented heat wave. Lytton in British Columbia soared to 46.6 degrees Celsius yesterday, breaking an 84-year-old record. A heat dome of high pressure parked over the region has set new records in many other areas. The US and Canada have both warned citizens of dangerous heat levels that could persist this week. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government confirmed 317 new cases of the coronavirus on Monday. That's up 81 from last Monday, marking a week-on-week increase for the 9th straight day. The total number of confirmed infections in Tokyo now stands at 172,744. The 7-day average ending today stood at 489, up 24.8% from the week before. Binance, a world's biggest cryptocurrency exchange, has been banned by the UK's financial regulator. The Financial Conduct Authority has ruled that the firm cannot conduct any regulated activity in the UK. It also issued a consumer warning about Binance.com, advising people to be wary of adverts promising high returns on crypto asset investments. Binance said the FCA notice would have no direct impact on the services it provides from its website Binance.com. To end the world news, the headlines again. Canada records its highest ever temperature. Tokyo reports new coronavirus cases. The UK's financial regulator bans world's biggest cryptocurrency exchange. That ends world news. Moving on to development news. Minister Johnston Fernandes said 1 million saplings will be planted along either side of roads to minimize carbon footprint and manage emissions. He launched a project to plant saplings on either side of the Marine Drive from Vallavatta to Dehiwala under the 1 million trees green project of the Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor program recently. That ends development news. And in sports news, it's cricket, athletics and golf. Taking a look at cricket news, Sri Lanka Cricket has decided to suspend national team players Kusal Mendis, Niroshan Dikwalla and Dhanushka Gunatilaka for breaching the bio-bubble during the England tour. SLC has decided to suspend the players pending an inquiry and also decided to recall them to Sri Lanka immediately. The SLC is expected to initiate disciplinary action against 3 players, including Vice-Captain Kusal Mendis, after videos emerged appearing to show them breaching their bio-bubble in England. In athletics, Sydney McLaughlin set a new women's 400-metre hurdles world record with a time of 51.90 seconds in the final of the US Olympic athletics trials in Oregon, which was affected by a heat wave. McLaughlin, aged 21, beat Olympic and world champion Dalila Mohammed, whose record she broke after a temperature of 44 degrees Celsius delayed racing to the event. Meanwhile, Shelley Ann Fraser-Price will compete in the Olympic 100-metre and 200-metre after storming the Jamaican trials. The fastest woman alive ran a career best time of 21.79 seconds in 200 metres on Sunday after clocking 10.71 seconds in the 100 metres on Friday. And in golf news, America's Nelly Korda landed the first major of her career in the move to world number 1 with a 3-shot win at the Women's PGA Championship in Atlanta. The 22-year-old started the final day level with compatriot Lizette Salaz at the top of the leaderboard. However, Korda had 2 eagles in a 4-under final round of 68 as she won on 19 under, with Salaz recording a 71. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Apparel maker Hella Clothing plans an initial public offering on the Colombo Stock Exchange within 12 months to raise capital for entry into North Africa and the expansion of its East African operations. The Sri Lanka-based manufacturer for PVH Corporation, the parent company of fashion brands Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein, will offload a 20% stake for $20 million. This was disclosed by Chief Executive Officer Dilanka Janadasa in an interview recently. That ends business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
And on economic news, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa met with Omani investor delegation from Shumuk Investment and Services, which is the investment arm of Madain, the public establishment for industrial estates of the Sultanate of Oman, at Temple Trees. The Prime Minister and the Omani delegation discussed on ways and means to enhance economic cooperation between Sri Lanka and Oman. The Omani delegation also met with State Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral and explored areas of investment opportunities. That ends economic news.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue in partnership with the Ministry of Education introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally on the Weather Report, the Met Department says showers will occur at times in western, Sabragamur and northwestern provinces and in Gaul, Matara, Kandy and Nuwara Eliya districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in Uva and eastern provinces and in Mullaitivu district in the evening or at night. That ends the Weather Report.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue in partnership with the Ministry of Education introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The government pays attention on the increased number of persons arriving in the country from overseas infected with coronavirus. A new program introduced to look after corona patients at home. Another 2,251 COVID patients leave hospitals after recovering from the virus. A restraining order issued on MP Sagara Karivasam. In news overseas, Canada records its highest ever temperature. In sports news, US Olympic trials, Sydney McLaughlin breaks women's 400-meter hurdles world record. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.